1978. Two young filmmakers, John Carpenter and Debra Hill, began shooting a film about a babysitter being stalked by evil incarnate. Shot in 20 days, on a budget of just over $300,000, the film went on to make over $50 million, and until recently was the highest-grossing independent movie ever. It's influenced a generation of filmmakers and film-goers, and its title has become synonymous with movie horror, Halloween. Today, Debra Hill is a player, one of the busiest producers in LA, but she remembers Halloween.
What I like about horror films is the fact that they really get you to react. For me, the films were a way to kind of leap from reality into some sort of great fantasy. One of my first jobs was a script supervisor working on a movie called Goodbye, Norma Jean. And then I met John Carpenter when he directed Assault on Precinct 13. And I was his script supervisor and assistant editor. And then we decided to collaborate on Halloween. So we took Assault on Precinct 13 over to the London Film Festival. And while we were there, we met Mustafa Akkad, who loved the movie. And he pitched to us a concept called the Babysitter Murderers. Irwin Yablans actually came up with the idea of setting it in Halloween. And we were searching for a story, you know, what could the story be? And because we were very limited, in fact, they wanted babysitters. So, and I'd been a babysitter, and I had all these great stories. But when he called and came up with the brilliant idea of using the themes of Halloween to tell our story, it was like a gold mine.
I wasn't in this horror films until John Carpenter came to me with this film, and he said, I have a film and low budget, and he said $300,000. I said, $300,000? He said, well, yeah. I said, what's the stories about? He said, it's about a babysitter to be killed by the boogeyman. The word babysitter clicked with me, because every kid in America knows what a babysitter is.
We went to a list of scares. You know, like imagine if, you know, you're in bed with your boyfriend and he goes down to get some water or Coke or something and comes back with a sheet trying to pretend he's a ghost, but it's not him. It's all these kinds of things that we wrote down, all these scares, and then we decided to weave the scares into the story. I wrote the first draft, laying in the kids, the teenagers, the teenage talk, the girl talk amongst each other. And John came back with a pass for the Sam Loomis character, which was played by Donald Pleasance. So all the stuff about evil and everything is really John's.
I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes.
The opening shot of the picture took an entire day to film. It's actually 2 shots. We took it from Touch of Evil, one of our favorite Orson Welles films. We set up so that we would start in the front of the house and we would actually go all the way through, creep in the window, see them kissing, go through the back of the house, open up the drawer, pick out the knife, and by the way, those were my hands. And then we would go in through the living room and up the steps and into the bedroom. And while we were up there shooting that scene, downstairs, all the electricians and grips were running around crazy trying to reset the lights for when we turned around and came back through the house.
Veteran actor Donald Pleasance came in for 5 shooting days to portray the Shape's nemesis, Dr. Sam Loomis.
Donald Pleasance was just an amazing actor. He's the kind of guy who just knew the character. We only had 5 days with him. He was just really great. He gave 150%. And he was like the elder on the set. Those days, kids making movies was rare. And so I think he was just astonished at our ages and the excitement and the freshness that we brought to the process. One wonderful thing was years after we had originally asked Christopher Lee to play the Sam Loomis role, we ran into him at the Escape from New York AVCO party. And when he realized it was John Carpenter and Debra Hill that he was meeting, he said, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I should have been in your film.
God bless his soul, Donald Pleasance, we asked him, he said, don't count on me more than 22 episodes.
While Halloween was Pleasance's 108th film or TV appearance, it was his co-star's first movie role.
I remember that the first day we shot, I remember exactly what we shot. And I remember going home and thinking I was going to be fired. I just thought I sucked and that, you know. And I remember being at home and my roommate said, "Jamie, the phone's for you, it's John Carpenter." And I thought, oh man, this is it. And he called to say how happy he was with the day's work, and I just thought that was great. It's never happened to me again.
We saw a lot of girls to play the Laurie Strode character, and Jamie was just so vulnerable and so real and so fresh. So she really didn't come with sort of the acting chops that most of the young girls were portraying at the time. She just was real and fresh, and she so wanted the role. And I really also thought, too, besides being right for the role, the connection that she had with her mom, Janet Leigh, who had been in Psycho, and the fact that we had named the Donald Pleasance character after Sam Loomis, who was, you know, her boyfriend in Psycho. For those reasons, Jamie got the part.
I remember the feeling about it more than anything. It wasn't like something happened on the set. You know, we're working hard. Everybody was very young. We were shooting in an incredibly fast pace. The entire makeup, wardrobe, prop department was in a tiny Winnebago. Here I was with these 18, 19, 20, 22-year-old guys, primarily, and a lot of people's girlfriends and friends and family all creating this movie. So that remains the thing that was special about it for me.
The first Michael Myers mask was actually a William Shatner from Star Trek masks that we kind of changed a lot. We opened up the eye sockets, we changed the hair, we did something to the skin tones to make it this white, pasty kind of mask. And it was kind of scary because it was sort of featureless. And that's what what we're going for.
But the shape had to be more than just some guy in a fright mask.
Nick Castle had been a schoolmate of John's at USC.
Nick had a wife and I believe 2 babies. I know there was at least one, it may have been 2. And they came by every day at lunch, and you know, here's this guy, you know, with this oversuit on, and you know, the mask was just always lying next to him. He'd put it on and go do the work.
His portrayal of the shape, now remember, the shape has no lines in the movie, none whatsoever. It's just sort of a, you know, a mask, and it's a presence that we wanted. On Halloween 2, we had a stuntman play the role, and even though he studied the Nick Castle kind of feeling, he could never quite get it.
I think they're trying to make it more important than it really is. I actually just walked. John actually did say something, you know, I like the way you walk, I think it'll be good. Now maybe John thinks of me as a serial killer, I don't know. I remember I'm about to walk across the street in the first shot, and I realize he has not told me anything about what I'm supposed to do as this character. So I came up to him and basically asked him, what's my motivation, you know, as the shape walking across. How do you want me to walk, you know? How do you want me to, am I supposed to be this or that? And he said, Nick, just walk. That was his direction. That's John. John was very specific. He just said, just walk. I am actually in this movie without the mask on. Early on, when the Michael Myers escapes from the hospital, he jumps on a car, right, and he smashes the car window. It was raining that night. It was supposed to be raining that night, and it was very cold that night, and all I had on was my underwear and this hospital gown. And I didn't know it was supposed to rain. This is 3 in the morning, you know, maybe 40-something degrees, and all of a sudden someone yells, Dean Cundey, that little rat, probably yelled, turn on the hoses. And they turned on the hoses, you know, they didn't bother to warm up the water or anything like that. And I remember the feeling of ice cold water hitting my body through the hospital gown. And then they had to do take after take. And I'm sure there was no film in the camera. I'm sure the first take was perfect, and they were just doing it to torture me.
I think he really gave the movie something. I think there's little moments that he does in the movie that are really special that, you know, take it away from being just some sort of thug in a suit. He really kind of, at one point, he tips his head and kind of looks at his handiwork.
I remember when I stabbed the kid up against the refrigerator or something, boom, you know, stabbed the kid, and I remember that direction. John said, tilt your head this way, Tilt your head that way, like you're looking at him. And everyone loves that.
Well, he was so agile and subtle, and he made a great shape because of that. Well, I needed to go pick up some trick-or-treat shots, second unit, and I wanted them where trick-or-treaters went by and suddenly there stands the shape. So not only was I going to direct the second unit, but I brought the costume and I was going to be the shape. So I put this shape costume on, and of course I'm so much tinier than Nick, and in dailies it was so hilarious because the shape had shrunk.
After Halloween, Nick Castle turned to writing and directing features.
Then I went on to do The Last Starfighter, and The Boy Who Could Fly, and Tap, and Dennis the Menace, and Major Payne, and Mr. Wrong.
When the film was finished, no one expected what happened next.
Everybody was surprised by its success. And it didn't succeed right away. It was something that built over, 3 or 4 months. And even then, it wasn't like I walked down the street and people were going, "Hey, Laurie Strode, all right." I mean, again, 1978, it certainly did very, very well, and it made, a lot of other people a lot of money. And for me, it gave me a movie career.
I think the simplicity of the story and the way it was told is what made the movie really unique.
I think Michael Myers is enduring because he's a real person. I repeat, this is always, I emphasize on any script or any episode to do, is that Michael Myers have to be a real person. Sometimes they get some scripts where they just blow him up, they kill him, destroy him, because no, he's not a supernatural. He is a real human being that any person could encounter somebody like this. And this is what really makes him scary and essential.
He has no morality. You don't know where it's coming from. It's your deepest, darkest fear.
Sadly, Michael Myers passed away this week, the real Michael Myers. He was the distributor in London who had distributed Assault on Precinct 13. And the whole deal here was that Mustafa Akkad and Erwin Yablans would be attached as executive producers to this picture. And we wanted to pay homage to the person, Michael Myers, who brought all of us together. So we named the shape Michael Myers.
He may be the only mass murderer who's on a first-name basis with movie audiences around the world.
I couldn't believe the fans that are really so addicted to these Halloweens. They know so much about it, more than I do, as far as details and the family relationship in the story and the cast and the costumes, and they want to know who is playing Michael Myers, the one next.
I get letters from people that still, that what they say is, "Mr. Castle, we love your work, we love your direction on The Last Starfighter. Boy, Major Payne was really funny. Can you sign this picture of the shape, please?"
Of course, now, 20 years later, a whole new generation is born.
I wear my Halloween pin with great pride. I tried very hard through 22 now years of making movies to always hold up Halloween and say, it was the best experience I ever had. It was by far, up until True Lies, the best part I ever had. I tried to point out the irony that in those exploitation movies, I was intelligent, forthright, fought back against adversity, and was the lead in those movies for that role.
Halloween redefined the horror film and opened the doors for 2 decades worth of imitators. But none have had the impact or the nail-biting effectiveness of Michael Myers, because real terror stands the test of time.
In every script they want to kill him, they want to destroy him. I tell them, wait a minute, Michael Myers, I love this guy.